Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mortgage Coach Tuesday Interview. Today, I am blessed with the opportunity to interview Jen DuPlessis. What's up, Jen?
Hi, good morning. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good, and I think you're a familiar face for everybody that comes to our Friday Mastermind every Friday. Myself, Todd Bookspan, Jen, Michelle Town. We have amazing guests. We've had Bill Hillstead there a couple times lately. And I'm not going to bring it up yet, but I do want to remind folks that are part of that, make sure you are doing your referral magnet video. If you don't know what that is, go to our Facebook group, check it out. But Jen, this conversation was inspired from a call that we had, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we were talking about how to deliver value to realtors. And then you started talking about your business booster program. And yeah. I think I'd like to set this whole conversation around how can a loan officer best interview a realtor, identify the pain that realtor has, and then showcase, package and present their value in a way that's on point and compelling. So that will be the big topic today. If anybody does want us to talk about something else, or you have a question for Jen, this is a very interactive call, so post a question or raise your hand. Now, Jen, before we get into that, I know you've been top loan officer, $100 million. I think your average year was around $75 million.
Right.
Typically help over 200 families a year. So you know what it's like to run a big mortgage practice. But I also know that right now you've launched your book, no pun intended.
I didn't expect that either. Yeah,
you didn't catch you've launched. By the way, how is that going? How is the book sales and book value going?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, it's going really, really well. I had intended it to be, and still do, intend it to be a workbook for people so that they don't ever put it down, that they, read a 1.5 to 2 page chapter. And I have notes at the end and actionable items at the end, and then they can just close it and go run and do that. And when they feel like they need some more inspiration, they can come back. But it's turned out to be something that mortgage companies and real estate companies have been buying in bulk and using it as book club, using it as training. Our company's using it for recruiting. So I'm really pleased with the way it's all turned out. That wasn't the intent. I mean, my intent was to show people or help people understand how to do things. We all know what to do. It's the implementation and putting it into play that is always the problem, for people. So I wanted to show how to do things, not just what to do. So that's what it's about. So hopefully someone will pick it up. It's behind me. You can see, or behind me. You can see it. It's kind of sitting there because people ask me all the time to send something. So, yeah.
Good. Well, it's a great book. I have it. I've read it. I love it. And I know you're also doing some coaching and mentoring now, and you're doing a lot of speaking around the country. So folks, if you're looking for someone who's a loan officer, a mentor, a mortgage coach, Jen DuPlessis, fantastic speaker to have at your sales rally. So let's get into the topic. How would you like to set it up, for anyone that's on this call that wants to upgrade how they're packaging and presenting value to agents? What should they be doing?
Yeah, I think, based on where we started, a couple of weeks ago and said how this would come about, I think one of the challenges everyone has right now is getting appointments with realtors. We've talked about that quite a bit. And I actually heard that at the NAMBA conference I was at last week speaking. Still the challenge of getting appointments with realtors. And I think what we have to understand is that we, loan officers as a whole have descended down onto realtors. We also have more realtors than, it's crazy. I mean, every time I turn around, I'm hearing that a new realtor has joined the business. What's sad about that is that 82%, that National Association of Realtors just released this, 82% of realtors will not make it a year. So we have to be very careful about picking and choosing who we want to work with. And I know there's a strategy of, get the newbies, bring them in, help them grow and be part of that growth. There's also a strategy of, taking the middle guy and, helping them break the glass ceiling that they're at, a plateau that they're at. And then obviously I'm going after the top producers, you know. So I think that's really where we start is, you know, who do we spend time with? And then when we do, what are we saying? And I can tell you just from all the experience I have over these 35 years, there's so much that I don't know if we get excited about what we have to offer. We get nervous. We feel like we have to sell everything, but we just literally info dump when we meet with any partner, right? Realtor, financial planner, otherwise. When we meet with them, we just tend to info dump on them. And then we leave that meeting and have nothing else to sell to them. And we have no reason to call them back. And you know what I hate most about that is that a lot of times people are making cold calls to get that appointment. So you get up the nerve to make the phone call. You finally get the appointment and then you info dump on them there's no reason for them to come back to you. And when you do that, you're making yourself a commodity rather than, you know, an expert in a specific area. And I've talked about that several times on these calls is, you know, making sure that you identify 3 or 4, 2, 3, however many niches that you work in, and you'll get referrals for those niches. And then eventually, if you do a really, really good job with your customer experience and you wow everybody, you'll get all of the other business anyway. But I think it's a scarcity rather than abundance. And when we talk about that all the time, is so scared that you're gonna miss one opportunity that you want to tell them about everything. And I just can't remember everything that somebody does. What I can remember is 80% of what they do. You know, what's the one thing that you do 80% of, you know, if you, in your practice? And I always use the example of my chiropractor, who obviously is a chiropractor, right? But he also does laser treatment. He does traction. He does doTERRA oils. He has a wellness thing. He's got a massage therapist. And it's like, okay, well, you do all that, but what do you do? Well, I want to know what you do the most of, and obviously it's being a chiropractor. So I refer him as a chiropractor. All the peripherals can be addressed when they get there, right? I don't need to be concerned about doTERRA oils for him. So that's what we have to do. We have to figure out what is the one thing that we're just really, really good at. We like the people that we serve. You know, for example, I'm great at jumbo loans. I'm great at VA loans. I love when they're VA jumbo. And I'm great at investor loans. Those are my 3 things that I'm really, really good at. Doesn't mean I can't do all the rest. Doesn't mean I don't know FHA and USDA. And I do those loans. But those are what I do best. And I want them to remember me for that expertise first and foremost. And I like working with those people. That's the people I like working with. So does that help?
It
looks like you have a question.
I do. And then I've also noticed some folks that are on the call that I might have unmute and either ask a question or provide a comment. So let's do this. We're about 10 minutes into the conversation. I want to make sure we leave at least 30 minutes to talk about executing at the meeting. But really quick, if you could just, you know, let's set the stage of how long is your typical, you know, first, second meeting with an agent? What do you say to get the meeting so that we kind of have a feel for the scripting and the expectations once you're in this meeting? So could you give us a feel for expectation set, scripting, and how long is the meeting? And then, by the way, if anybody wants to raise their hand and ask Jen a question or provide some feedback, feel free to do so. Go ahead, Jen.
Sure. Okay, so first of all, you know, one of the things that Dave and I were talking about before we went live here is that I don't do any cold calling whatsoever. None. All of my relationships with my realtors and my other referral partners are through referrals. And what I'm about ready to be teaching you here in a few minutes is how that happens. I don't chase after realtors. They chase after me. In fact, I just got a call yesterday from a broker saying, I've just heard so many good things. I'm wondering if it would be okay if we did business together. And I was like, oh, sure, let's talk about it. But I have to make sure that he's going to complement and not complicate my practice. And so I am very picky about who I work with. I would say if you're new, And I know that all the top producers are like this too, you know, a little picky about who we work with. If you're new, you still want to be selective because you're setting a tone for who you will be as you progress in your mortgage practice. And so, for example, if you're answering phones at all hours of the night, 24/7, and you make yourself completely available, you should expect that that's going to happen when you're 35 years in the business, because that's the expectation you set out. So, so that's the first thing. I do not make any cold calls to realtors to schedule appointments, but during a transaction, obviously I've got to meet the listing agent and sometimes the buying agent if I don't know the buying agent, if I was referred by a client. So I do have to make that sort of cold, it's just a warm call, but sort of that cold call. And, you know, I think the thing that's really important about that is you want to grab their attention. You want to do everything different from the typical loan officer. You know, Michelle Town has said something that I've now started saying to almost everybody is, you probably didn't expect my phone call, right? You probably weren't expecting to hear from me because nobody ever calls listing agents after the contract is written. And I don't say nobody does, but a lot of people don't. So that's a great terminology to use. But you know, you want to get their attention. You want to give them a reason to speak with you. I love when I hear my loan officers here in the office saying, hi, this is Jen with Apex Home Loans. I just wanted to call and see if I could get, you know, 10, 15 minutes of your time to talk about what we can do and our products and services. And so if you just give me a call back, well, heck, if I got that call and I don't want to hear about your products and services, I'm not going to call you back. So that's why you have problems getting the phone call. You're selling the steak and not the sizzle on the phone call. So you want to give them a reason to meet with you. You know, and you want to give them perceived value that isn't, in my opinion, money. Okay. Now I know a lot of people pay for Zillow and I have no problems with that whatsoever. It's just not what I do. So I want to give them value that's of me giving my expertise to them. And the one thing we have to remember is that regardless of our tenure in this business, we know more than the realtor. Regardless of the realtor's tenure, we know more about mortgages. So we do have an expertise in lending and we do have value to give them. Let's be their coach. That's how I've really positioned myself from the very beginning. I mean, clear back, you know, I used to sell NAGAM loans, right? With World Savings. I was with World Savings for a long time. And I've always been one who is an expert, an educator, an edu-seller is what I call it, edu-selling. I've never been a traditional loan officer bringing in rate sheets and things like that. I've always taken the position of being a trainer, bringing people in to train. This thing that I'm going to be showing you today, the Business Booster, in fact, I have 20-some people coming here tomorrow. That I'm doing for my entire staff, my entire loan officers, a whole bunch. They're bringing a lot of realtors in, and we're going to be introducing the Business Booster to those realtors to help my loan officers educate their realtors and help their business grow. So I think that's really important to do that. And then, you know, I would, again, if I were making these, I don't make cold calls. I just get referrals. I mean, I get referrals for them, and I'm going to show you how I do that. That's the most important thing.
All right, well, we'll get there. So that, I think that sets the expectation. People are meeting with you to get education, and they're meeting with you to get ideas on how to sell more homes. By the way, I just noticed that we have Dan Keller on the call. He put up his hand to be unmuted. Dan, I don't know if you had an idea to share or a question for Jen. Are you, did I unmute you? And I'll let you know if we can hear you.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. We hear you. How you doing, Dan?
Hi, Dan.
Hey, good morning, all. Hey, I'm good. This is a killer call. No, I'm listening. I've got a couple of notes that I'm taking. I love your approach. So I'm taking notes. I'm a student right now, and then I'll jump in later on.
Okay.
Well, hey, real quick, Dan, just because I think it's interesting to hear different approaches, and I do want to get to Jen's main content, but for just 3 minutes, what is the expectation realtors have when they meet with you? And are you setting a similar expectation that, hey, meet with me for education and ideas? If you could just share what expectation and scripting you have.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different ways. So I do cold call. It's just a part of my business. It's a part of my business that I used to dread, I used to hate, and I've just become used to it because I'm continuing to grow. And then I run a branch, and so as I'm teaching younger loan officers how to sell, I think cold calling is a part of that. That's just my opinion, and that's kind of one part of my business. So there's two, and then the other part of my business, because I'm about 10 years in the industry, is much like Jen's, where I get referred, or I'll have a great conversation with a listing agent where we've done a great job and invite them to coffee. And the expectation at that point is to share with them more. They're more impressed with my team and how smooth it was and the communication. So then I just show them how we're going to help save them time and money and show them value. The other part of that is I ask the agents that we already do a good job for a recommendation. Hey, look, we can handle about 7 more loans right now a month, and that's equivalent to probably 2 or 3 new realtor partners. And I would just love an introduction. Is there another agent in your office that you would recommend I reach out to where I can use your name to triangle for trust? And that's kind of the approach. The expectations at the meetings is just to listen and learn about them, and to find a gap that we can fill and fill it.
Love that. You said a lot. Triangle for trust, ask questions to fill a gap, which is where we're going to spend a lot of this call. If you don't mind, what is your cold calling script? Just, I want to get as much value out of this call as possible. Give us a feel for what it sounds like if you were cold calling an agent to try to drive a meeting.
Yeah, so I go straight to try to get to know as fast as I can. On a cold call, you're not going to waste their time. I don't want to waste their time. They don't want to really necessarily have a conversation with us. So I'm trying to get to, and there's really only 3 objections. And I've learned this from Jeremy Forcier a ton, and other great loan officers. I coached under Grant Cardone in 2014. He's not in the mortgage industry, and I think he helped me with handling an objection. So if you know your objections up front, it's just get to them. And then you have to understand my mentality on a cold call is they're going to be too busy. They already have a good loan officer. And so all I want to do is I just want to meet you. I want to take 5 minutes and introduce myself to you. Listen, we helped over 200 families last year. You do a lot of business. We're going to cross paths in the marketplace. And when we do, when you see a pre-approval letter from us, I want you to be able to put a name to the face. So I'd love to just pop by, shake your hand, and take no more than 2 or 3 minutes. And even with that, I get pushed back. And so then I just default to, hey, John, what time are you normally in the office? And at some point I'm going to get, hey, Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, I'm in the office. And so I'll try to show up at 9:55. I'll ask them, do they drink coffee or tea? And it's just the small promises. I tell them I'm going to be there at 9:55 on Tuesday. I'm there. I just landed a guy that closes about $40 million, big dog in Seattle, and he blew me off. He no-showed me. I showed up with coffee, and he wasn't there. And he blew me off, and he felt so bad because I called him. He ended up calling me back later that day, came to my office to say he was sorry, and since then he's referred us to contracts. So it's just the small promises. Yeah, when you get in front of them, it's less than 2 or 3 minutes. You bring them their coffee, you shake their hand, and that's ultimately on the original cold call. That's what it was about. I just want to meet you. So don't go in there and bring them a coffee and sit down and sell. But then the follow-up, and then my follow-up is just I'm going to call them. I call realtors every single Wednesday. I call it Well Wednesday. I call big dogs on Wednesday, and so I tell them I'm going to follow up with them next Wednesday just to check in. I want to make sure we're connected, and it always ends pleasant.
Love it, Dan. Great value add for everybody out there cold calling, which, let's face it, the majority of loan officers are not at a point in their career where they're not cold calling. Jen is at a point where, she's killed it. She's really well known in the market. She wants to keep her production at a certain level, so she has the bandwidth to lead, coach, speak, and grow her region. So a couple things. One, I hope everybody heard that Dan knows he's going into a storm. He's got his rain gear on. He's ready to go. When I interviewed Jeremy Forcier a week or two ago, he just talked about counterpunching. I know that I'm going to get pushback, and I'm ready for a counterpunch, and another counterpunch, and another counterpunch. So if you're listening to this on recording, down below, there'll be a link to that interview I did with Jeremy Forcier. It's like, I think it was, now is the time to work harder and smarter. You notice that Dan's grinding, you know, I mean, he's showing up, getting no-shown, and then turning a no-show into a client. And that's what it takes. It just takes effort, it takes work, it takes a lot of counter punches, but you need to be ready to throw those counter punches. So for any new loan officers on this call, you need to practice, you need to get out there and do it. And then of course, where we're gonna focus the rest of this call is when you do get that meeting, you need to ask great questions, you need to find places that you can deliver value, and you need to deliver value. So hey Dan, I'm gonna put you back on mute, but if you have another question or something to add to the party, let me know and I'll bring you back in. Sound good, buddy?
Perfect.
All right. So Jen, let's really dedicate the rest of this call towards, we're in the meeting. What questions do we ask? I do know you have some slides. I don't know. Let me know when you want me to share your desktop and walk us through how you execute in meetings. And Dan, I am going to want some color from you at some point. So just be ready to kind of provide your thoughts on this.
So yeah, thank you. But I want to make a couple of comments. Thank you, Dan. By the way, if you all did not hear, and I'm not ready to show my screen, but I will in a minute. If you did not hear what Dan said, which, you know, this is the thing about being a top producer is, you know, hearing, not listening, but actually hearing. And when you're learning, you know, that he uses a tactic of, hey, if it's a pre-approval, you know, hey, listing agent, you know, I just want to meet you. I don't want to meet with you. I want to meet you, so that in the future, if we ever run across, our paths run across, now you'll be able to put a name with the face and you'll be able to see me in action. So I think that's a great strategy. I'm going to take that. I'm going to amplify what I do, right? I already do videos and all kinds of things, but I'm going to amplify that a little bit. So I thought that was really good. I think the other thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is that there's different strokes for different folks. We all are successful doing things differently. So there's not a magic pill. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So whether you make cold calls, or whether you deliver rate sheets, whether you sit at open houses or go to open houses or don't, you can find success anywhere in this business, but you've got to find what works for you, and you have to stick with it for just a little bit until you get comfortable. You can't just try something and then say it didn't work after a couple of weeks. So I just want to make sure everybody gets that point of it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. So here's the thing. Like I said, when people meet with realtors and whatnot, they meet one time, they don't know what to say. I'm going to give you 5 questions, and you will never have to ask any more questions. Well, you can, and you do, but these are the 5 questions you're going to be asking. So I'm going to quickly show my screen here and go into this presentation. And this is only just going to be a piece of this. I call it E4, but it's exchange, expose, or expand, expose, and explode. And I need to set it up just a little bit for everybody to really understand why I started talking about this, which is that what I see is this chain link. And there's a broken chain. And in fact, I just wrote an article about this in Mortgage Executive Magazine. It'll be out whenever the next issue comes out. But just, you know, it's like a broken chain that we have. So we start with a passion, right? We have to know what our passion is. I don't even want to get into that. You cannot just be in this business to make money. People will see right through that. Making money in this practice or in this business is a byproduct of you identifying and finding your passion. So once you have your passion, you put a plan together. Once you have the plan together, you're going to have a strategy. So how many calls am I going to make? Where am I going to go? How, you know, what are the things I'm going to do? But herein lies the issue: putting everything into action, not sitting behind your desk, not hiding behind keyboard confidence, but really putting everything into action. And so let's call this a meeting, right? You go to a meeting and you have a meeting with a realtor or whatnot, and the chain gets broken because what you're waiting for is results. You met with them. You thought it went great. You know, you left and said, hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for letting me throw up on you. They said, oh, you're nice. And you think you're going to get business. And what ends up happening is that you're saying, well, how come I'm not getting business? And I can tell you that virtually every meeting I have with a realtor, even if it's a new realtor, even if it's a new financial planner, I get a referral, the very first meeting. Because I'm not going to wait for results. So what I want to do is I want to close this chain. And what I call this place is called the wait and hope. You know, I met with them and now I'm just waiting and hoping that they remember me, that they refer me, that they even have business, because I probably didn't even ask them if they have business because I was talking too much about me, right? So in order to get results, we need to close that gap and eliminate the wait and hope. So that's why I call this becoming a leader, because you're becoming a leader in the relationship. You're taking a front seat, you're leaning in, you're not taking a back seat and waiting for them to bring you business. You're going to help work together. So that's what that's about. So it's all about these richer relationships. And I'm going to throw these up here. And by the way, Dave, if you have questions, just pop in. Richer relationships. So we talk about going deeper, right? And to me, that's very monetary. It's very, well, I shouldn't say it is. Going deeper, I want to have deeper relationships. We talk a lot about it, but we don't know how to do it. So instead, we go wider. I just need more people. I need to have as many people as possible so that I can have a lot of loans. So what if we went wider and deeper? What if we decided that we didn't need 300 people, but we just needed a handful of people, but we went deeper with that handful of people? And that's really what started this whole process for me. So in networking, there's 6 basic steps, or relationship building, there's 6 basic steps. Typically what people do is they go from step 1, which is, step 2, which is networking, right into gimme my referrals at number 4, okay? So I met you, how come I'm not getting business? And the reason why is because of trust. We all know know, like, and trust. I know who you are. I like you. Whenever I see you in a networking event, I wave. But the reason I don't give business to you is I don't trust you. And the reason I don't trust you is because I don't know who you are. I know what you do. You're a lender. I've got 1,000 of them. But I don't know who you are. And I can't develop a trust with you unless I have a relationship with you. So that's where the networking comes in. And a lot of people say, I went to networking and I didn't get any business. That's because you don't go to networking to get business. You go to networking to identify potential partners you will then have a meeting with, so that you can identify who they serve. And a lot of times when I'm networking, I don't say, well, what do you do? I say, who do you serve, right? Who do you serve? Because that will pop up that number 1 thing that they do, rather than all the things that they do. So the third step then is training. And so Dave, you were asking about how long the meeting is. So usually the first meeting is about an hour and a half or 2. I am absolutely willing to spend that kind of time to have a relationship that will give me a referral by the end of the meeting, and multitudes after that. So the training, and I call it training, by the way, it's not a meeting. The reason why is that we have to intimately understand how they work.
Hey, Jen.
Yes.
Hey, I did want to say something because I want to make sure people connected that at a networking perspective, that to understand that, networking opportunities are there to identify partners and have enough of a connection to get the next meeting. And I do find new loan officers, let's just say a mistake that some loan officers make is they try too hard to, okay, they met them, now they got some conversation, and they're trying to close the deal. They're trying to do too much selling versus, it's there to identify,
Curiosity.
Be likable, connect with that person. So they're like, that's a cool human, that's a cool guy. And it's all about getting the sit down. It's all about, getting the venue of the right people on that realtor's team in the right venue to meet with you. That's anything more than that in a networking event, and you're shooting yourself in the foot. By the way, are you still on this call? Because I know Dan is a networking animal. Dan, if you're still on the call, could you provide some perspective on that?
Did you?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. No, I think
cool.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, I just jumped back on. I think what Jen said is so huge. And I actually just scribbled this down in huge capital letters, that we make a huge mistake when we go out and we network and we meet people and, you know, spend $500 to sponsor an event and then think that because we're the sponsor and we got a 5-minute presentation that people are going to do business with us. And I think what Jen said in regards to people, realtors, for example, they know what you do, but they don't know who you are. And so I've just taken I had that kind of that realization over the last year, even with social media, that I'm just sharing, I'm sharing business, but I produce a weekly video, a market update, or making sense of the market where hey, Dan does mortgages, but then I share more into my life. And then when I meet a realtor, I'll add them and I'll ask them. So I don't add them to a list, but I'll ask them, I let them know that I produce a weekly video, but I'm starting to share more personal stuff in those emails and those videos. And when I shared one about a month ago about a lesson, I lost a loan officer, I had more real estate agents reach out to me because of that lesson. It was actually on, you know, we're always either facing a storm, going into a storm, or coming out, and in a storm or coming out. And more agents reach out to me because of some pain that I shared. So they get to know, I think it's so big that people, as you network and when you ask questions and you listen more, people will find out more about you. And I think that's huge. Once they know who you are, not what you do, everyone knows we do loans, but when they know who we are and what makes us unique is just people, it opens up so many more doors.
Yeah, we have to be vulnerable. I think that's the key thing there, is that, you know, we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. We want to be professional, but there's nothing wrong with us, you know, being vulnerable. It's attractive to people, you know, it really is. I hate it. It's just something you have to learn. Yeah. And I was going to say, this is not the object of going to networking. That isn't the objective. This is the object of going to it, right? And I was going to say to you, Dave, too, is why wait till afterwards to schedule an appointment? You're there, you're having a great conversation, book it.
Right.
So you don't have to get up, make the call. Book it. Just get it done.
No, great. By the way, great point. Get the meeting, confirm the time. We all have our mobile phone. You know, take the assumptive close. Hey, I'm available next Tuesday at 2. Does that work?
Let's do it.
Just throwing it out. You say, well, no, 2 doesn't work, but 3 does, or 2 the next day. So get the meeting. Anyways, keep going with the meeting. Okay. I do want to say one thing because I wanted to interrupt earlier, but I also want to make sure everybody caught that first slide. You did it so quickly, where it said exchange, expand, explode, or expose, then explode. I love those metaphors, Jen, and I actually put them in chat. So if anybody else gets a quote or something that Jen says that you just think, hey, I want to remember that. And 2, it's a mastermind. I want to help the community remember that. Please, you know, either put it in questions so that I can amplify that to everybody else. Anyways, keep it, Dan. Thanks for jumping back in. Jen, keep it rocking.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so when I was talking about training, so really what you're doing is you're having a defined meeting where you're going to spend time learning about them. They're going to spend time learning about you. You're going to have 2 of these meetings. The idea behind here is not marriage at first sight. Just because you met somebody, I really don't want them to be referring me business instantly. Like a listing agent, they do that. Oh, I loved working with you. Can I send you some business? And I say, yes, I'd love for you to send me business, but I'd love to meet with you a little bit first because I want to find out what your process is. You know what mine is, but I want to find out what your process is so that I find that it doesn't conflict with me later and we have this one and done deal and it was just a nightmare, right? So it's worth taking the few minutes to do that. And I think that they'll appreciate it too. You know, who do they serve? How do they serve them? What are their expectations? What's the best communication preference? All before we get married into a transaction that, you know, is threatening someone's home. So that's what you do in the training, and you do, you know, a lot of that. And we're also learning all the personal things. Who's their favorite team? What do they like to do? You know, all of the things that happen with a meeting. The next one is that naturally referrals will start happening. They'll start coming back and forth, and you know, and they're going to be better quality referrals. The exploring piece is that we might go networking together. We're going to, you know, strategically, I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. We're going to strategically go after business together. We're going to strategically have meetings on a regular basis. And again, if you're sitting with them, book the next 2 or 3 meetings right there, because then your phone call to them is simply confirming, and so you don't have to worry about what to say, right? And then when you're on the phone, you can talk about other things. And then the last part is just keep that cycle going, reward their efforts, reward them with things that mean something to them, because you've had this training, you've gotten to know them deeper and wider. I just worry about people that go too wide, get the next deal, and they don't really develop any relationships. I think eventually you're going to run out of people, or you're going to run out of reputation. And I just don't want to see that for people. So it's worth taking a few minutes just to go through these steps, rather than going from networking right into referrals. So the next thing I want to share with you is something I call Profit Partner. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's cross promoters, power groups, and content. I don't have the time today, but so basically what it is that these realtors, if it's a realtor, become a profit partner for me. So whatever word you want to use doesn't matter. But my criteria, and this is where kind of the rubber hits the road for me, is that I want to work only with people that are intentional, only with people that are connected, and only with people that are credible. If they have a bad reputation, I don't want to attach myself to that. If they're part-time, I don't want to attach myself to that either. And I definitely want them to be connected. This goes all the way into my relationships with my estate planners and attorneys as well. They're obviously intentional. They're obviously very credible, but sometimes they're not connected. And so they may not be a great profit partner for me. And profit partners are specific, okay? You can have this relationship with anybody. You can have it with as many people as you want. It doesn't have to be 6. This is just how I do it. And with these people, I have a 15-minute call every single week. So with the cross promoters and the power groups and whatnot, I have a monthly call with them. So these realtors get put into different categories, and financial planners get put into different categories to identify how I'm going to communicate with them. The intent of this particular piece here is for expansion and exposure. Referrals naturally happen. So as you're growing your practice, even if you are seasoned and you want to grow in a new area, this is absolutely the best way to grow your practice, to meet new people, and to expand your business. So that's what that is. On top of that, I have what I call 12 apostles. I don't need 30 realtors. Now, some people do, and I think that's fine. Even when I was a top producer, producing $75 to $100 million, I didn't have gobs and gobs of people. My 12 people are committed, and when you were talking about setting up expectations, when I meet with realtors and I decide that maybe this could be someone who really is a referral partner and not just a profit partner who would help me expand, and I'll circle all this back, I ask for a commitment. I say, I would really like the opportunity to work with you as a partner, not just work with you where you give me business and I do good service, right? But I want to be a partner of yours. But part of being a partner of mine is that I'll jump upside down and backwards and be available for you on the weekends, but I don't do that for everybody. But part of being that is that the commitment for that partner is a minimum of 2 referrals a month. So let's just kind of carve this out. You have 12 people giving you 1 referral. That's 12 loans a month, 144 leads a year. You have 12 people giving you 2, that's 24 a month, 288 referrals a year. Quality referrals, because you're working with 12 people that you've gone deeper and wider and richer, right? You can go out and you can onesie Tuesday it until you're tired and you work till 11 o'clock at night, and that's fine. That's certainly fine. And that's not to say that I don't have realtor number 53 who gives me 1 deal a year. Okay, it's just I don't focus my attention on them. Here is where I'm helping these people grow their business just as much as I'm helping myself in growing my business. I'm focusing on 12 people that I refer business to and that refer business to me. I do not refer business to number 13 or number 14 of my realtors. I just don't. And by the way, all these apostles are not only realtors. I have I was going to say maybe 4 or 5 that are realtors, the rest are financial planners and whatnot. I get most of my business from there. So I want you to think about having Every realtor that you meet with, or every financial planner, anybody you meet with, plumber, carpenter in your B&I group, whatever it is, every one of them, you're going to have the same type of conversation. And in that conversation, you're going to be making a decision on where they're going to fit into your practice, not where you are. Okay, this is good. When we go into these meetings, we think, I hope they love me. I hope they love me. And we think that the two outcomes are they're either going to love me and give me referrals, or I'm going to wait and hope, right? Or they're going to say no and they don't like me. There's a third aspect. I have to decide if I like them. And so when I'm meeting with my referral partners, I say, thank you for meeting with me. There's three outcomes. You're either going to like what I have to say and we're going to work together. You're going to decide that I'm not a good fit for you. But also I may decide that we don't have enough common interest to charge forward in our relationship from my perspective. Is that okay with you? Good. Because now that the table turns, it's not, I'm interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing me. We have to position ourselves better than being the typical loan officer who's like a cat on a marble floor scrambling. Okay, so what do you prefer?
Real quick, before you go off of those 12 apostles, that reminded me of something from my interview last week with Wally Elderberry. And by the way, it was a fantastic interview. It was called Optimize Your Realtor Referrals and Your Past Customer Database. And one of the things that Wally's doing is he didn't use the metaphor that you have, but he's got these partners and their teams. And now he's actually, and Jen, you're going to love this idea, he's taking each one of them and he's creating his own almost like B&I group around them. So, each one of them, there's like, top realtor, top CPA, financial planner. By the way, you may be doing this. I saw the look on your face and you're like, but so by the way, that interview, I'll put a link down below. And I actually confirmed Wally, I can't remember if it's next month or June, where he's going to unpack his strategy of how he's building these networks within his network. And Jen, sounds like I might need to invite you to that call too. Yeah. But I just wanted to encapsulate that.
Yeah, I have 5 of those little power groups surrounding that. Each realtor has their own power group, and I've helped them put it together and guide it.
Love that.
Okay, so, which do you prefer? You can work with 100 pennies, or you can work with 4 quarters, right? Or 12. Right? And I mean, it's just when I look at this, I just get really stressed out with all the pennies, right? I'd rather work with 4 quarters. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's how the meeting goes. Again, I don't care who you're talking to. And by the way, I do this with my clients too, because don't they have careers? Don't they have jobs? Don't they have connections? So I love doing this with my clients as well. So the first thing, very easy stuff, is using the frog or Ford method. If you're not familiar with it, you're going to talk about family, recreation, occupation, and goals, or dreams if it's Ford. You don't go in and go, okay, tell me about your family, and now recreation. Tell me what you do. It's a conversation, and this is part of your training. The training portion is, why'd you get into the business? Be curious. Why did you become a realtor? What did you do before? What did you like about that? What do you like about being a realtor? What have you found is challenging, right? Like all these questions. What do you do for fun? Where'd you go to school? What are you looking to do this year? How'd you do last year? What do you think happened that you didn't make where you wanted to go? What would have been better for you? I mean, just a conversation. This isn't a script. It's just a conversation that you're having. Build rapport. But here's where the rubber hits the road, and I want to make sure we get to this because this is the most important part about what I'm talking about today. Every time you meet that realtor, meeting 1, meeting 13, meeting 1,000, that referral partner, that client, you're going to ask these 5 questions. Now, you're going to ask more, but you're going to ask these 5 questions. The first one is, what's your goal this week or month, depending on the frequency of meeting? What is your goal this week or month? And by the way, none of the answers can be for you to give me a deal, for you to give me a buyer, for me to get a listing. The idea here is that we're expanding and exposing one another's business. We can be on an island by ourselves, or we can work together in a partnership to help expose each other's business and expand what people know about us, as we were just talking about, on social media or whatever the case may be. That's why it's called exchange, expand, expose. So what is your goal this week? And by the way, because we're a partner and because we have this real rich relationship, your goal might be to drink 5 glasses of water a day, and I'm going to help you do that. I'm going to be your support mechanism for it. It might be to write your business plan, and I'm going to help you do that. So whatever your goal is this week, I'm going to help you with. So what is your goal this week? Just open it up. What is your goal? The second question is, what is your biggest concern or challenge this week or month? What are you running into? What can I help you with? Yeah, my biggest challenge is I can't seem to get this one house sold. Good. What can I do to expose that? Could we have a special open house? Could I post something for you? Could I do something? What could I do for you to help you with your biggest challenge or concern this week? Now, you could go into something else here. You could say, what is your biggest challenge or concern with the lenders you're currently working with? What do you wish that they would do differently? So if you want to get more specific like that, you can. But the idea again here is to let them open up and say, these are what my challenges are. I don't know what their challenges are. The challenge might be, my kids are home this week from spring break, and it's a silly season, right? And it's a spring market, and I can't get anything done. Great. Let me find someone to take care of them. How many kids do you have? You should already know. How many kids do you have? Could I take them to the movie? Could I take them to the park for you so you could go meet with that homeowner? That's what friendships are. That's what relationships are. They go beyond business. They go into friendships. I mean, my realtors are my friends who happen to give me business, right? So the next one is, who would you like to be connected with? Now, when you ask this question, you're going to hear, no one's ever asked me that, ever, right? So I want to know, who do you want to be connected with that would push the needle on your business, move it forward? Maybe your home inspector just retired. Maybe your the last title company made a mess of a deal and you need to be connected with someone else. Maybe you would like to expand your business to work with divorce attorneys, estate planners, a new builder. Who do you want to be connected with? And it's wonderful because, and I always use this line, if they said to you, people that like underwater basket weaving with puppy dogs, and you say, gosh, I don't know anybody, the next phone call you're making to someone else, when it's your turn to ask who you want to be connected with, guess who you're going to be asking for? And that will grow your practice as well. And I've got great examples for that even happened this week, that if we get to it, I'll be able to. If we get time, I'll tell you about it. The next question, what is the one thing I can do for you specifically this week? It might be, I'm having a client appreciation party and I can't find a balloon twister guy. It might be, I'm having a huge open house, a $3.5 million open house, which I have coming up in DC here shortly. And I really, really need help getting it ready and put on the market. And great, what can I do for you? What specifically can I do? I'm having a business mixer. Could you invite people in? None of these answers, again, can be, what can I specifically do for you? Give me a buyer? That's not what this is for. That will happen. So what can I specifically do for you? The last question is, what are your thoughts? Please don't walk away thinking that this is going to work and put yourself in that wait and hope world. By asking, what are your thoughts? They might say, you know, Jen, I really like you, but my husband's a lender. You know, Jen, I really, really like you, but I'm getting out of the business in the next 3 months, right? So we make these assumptions, and no wonder we're waiting around for results. Ask, what are your thoughts? If it's a great meeting, their thoughts are going to be, how do we keep going forward? How do we keep doing this? And that's when you come in with the Business Booster program that I was talking about. But ask what are their thoughts, and then just be quiet. Don't say anything. Hear. Don't listen. Hear. Listen to what they're, distinctly to what they're saying. You know, I love that you asked me these questions. Now, you reverse this role when you meet with them. So now it's your turn. What is your goal this week? What is your biggest concern or challenge? Who would you like to be connected with? What is the one thing they can do for you? Are you having a business mix or a class, something? And what are your thoughts, right? And make sure for the connections that you've got a theme. Don't ask for a CPA right now, okay? Because you're not going to get them. But think about the themes. You know, January is the biggest divorce month. So ask for people who are going through a divorce during that period of time. In February, people get engaged. Hey, I'd like to meet people engaged. Yes, go ahead.
So, hey, Dan has to get jumping, but you have shared so much value. Dan, before you go, any big takeaways or any last value you want to bring to the conversation today?
Yeah, I mean, I hope loan officers listening understand the value of what Jen's talking about. And it's, I always take this approach with people that I meet, and they're not always just realtors or lenders. If someone appears or is successful, I always ask, hey, knowing what you know now, what advice do you have for a 42-year-old guy like me that's kind of in the middle of my career versus you, an older, more experienced professional near the end? Or when I meet with realtors, I ask the same thing. And so I think what Jen's doing is, and I hope you guys see this, is she's asking the right questions and she's listening. And we're not there to solve their problems in that meeting. And I think when you and I were talking yesterday and you asked me to jump on this call, you asked me to share, some of the things that I do in an initial meeting. And so I'll just keep it super short real quick. I use pretty much the same strategy as Jen. I have 5 specific questions, and none of them are centered around loans, and none of them are centered around letting them know anything necessarily about me unless they ask. But the first one I start off with, and I learned this from Chris Smith. And he wrote the conversion code, and it's called pre-call stock. So before I ever call a realtor or meet with a realtor, I stalk them. So I know a little about them. And so I open up, one of the first questions when we sit down is, I absolutely love your business model. That's why we're here today. What is the one thing that's working for you right now? And since I only have 5 questions, I make sure to ask why or what's important about that to you at least one time with each one of these questions. So what's working very well for you right now? And they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you everything, and they're going to talk for about 5 minutes about how successful they are at something. The question number 2 is, and then I switch gears, what's your biggest challenge right now? Like, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in the market right now? And right now it's inventory. Right now, actually, a lot of realtors too, they feel like they're getting shopped a lot. So multiple people that sellers are interviewing. Number 3, and then I ask why. And then number 3, this is where it's kind of an undercover question. I want to find out if they actually wrote a business plan. So I asked, when you wrote your 2018 business plan, what were 1 or 2 big goals that you're planning to achieve this year? And over 50% of the time, I didn't really write my business plan. So then it gives me ammunition to go back and send them my 1-page business plan, one that I got from Coach Bill Hart about 5 years ago. It works really great. Number 4, this is the big one. And I always get a good response from this. Knowing what you know right now, what is the best advice you have for a younger, newer real estate agent? All right. And that always is something, and I always ask what's important to you about that, or what really helped move the needle for you. And that's really big, because then I can share that. And I tell them there's a lot of the young real estate agents getting in the marketplace right now. And I say that for a reason, because a lot of these realtors have teams, and it's a way for us to connect. If they're looking for someone to expand on their team, I'm well connected and I can refer them. And this is kind of how I close the meeting up. Hey, when you think down the road, whether we work together, you continue with your current lending situation, how will you know a year from now that you made the right choice? Whether you choose me, whether you continue to work with the same professional, or you choose me. And then I kind of shut up and I just listen to what they have to say. And that's what they're going to tell you. That's kind of the question that, hey, what are you looking for in a lender? But by saying that, you get to actually kind of go deep with them on what they're truly looking for. Hey, if it's just a guy to pick up the phone 24/7, I might not be your guy, And so that, and then I'll ask a series of 2 or 3 questions. Why is that important to you? Or tell me more about what you mean. That's it. Those are my top 5, and that really starts the closing process for me. I let them know, hey, it's been incredible sitting down for 30 minutes with you. What I'm going to do is I've taken some notes, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to send you some information by the end of business tomorrow. And I want you to take a look at that. And most of the time it's a link. I mean, I've used your open house videos before, Dave. I've got access to so many great pieces of information. And that's where I try to identify gaps and fill in those gaps. And once I send that to them, I follow up. And the whole idea after that is exactly what Jen does. And that's to sit down for an in-office 1 to 2 hour coaching session, strategy session, where I get to introduce them to my team and show them my office and find out more about really filling those gaps in their business.
Yeah,
Love it, Dan.
I think that's really important.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say your questions are very specific to finding out about their practice so that you have an angle to go in. And I love that. And I think that that's a great first meeting or second meeting. I don't care if you're listening to this and you take my 5 questions first and his 5 questions at the second meeting, or flip them over, it doesn't matter. The key that I'm talking about here is that these questions I can ask over and over and over and over and over again, and not and there's new intel that comes out of it every single time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so I think these are great questions. I'm going to use them. I think they're wonderful questions. I think they're directive questions. Mine are more loose for future business, because once you know the answer to that question, you can't really ask that question again, right, on a few of those. Yeah. But it's definitely awesome intel to help you strategize on how you're going to move that relationship forward.
Okay, well, guys, let me jump in here. So go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, and Jen, it saves us time. I mean, if we sit down with the top producer and we're pumped that we're sitting down with someone that sells over 100 homes a year, and we find out that 80 out of those homes came from a $10,000 a month Zillow campaign, and really all they're looking for in a lender is to pay $6,000 a month. You cut we were able to cut the meeting short. We're able to end, and that's just not, because I'm not willing to do that, and this isn't going to be a great relationship. So it does. These questions for me has helped eliminate me continuing to chase them and eating my time where I can just move on and find someone else.
Well, and the thing is, we have to be willing to do that. We have to be willing to say no. And that is where a lot of our problem is. We're just a lot of times so hungry that we'll do anything. And that's where our professionalism has failed in a lot of, not our mortgage coach people, but a lot of people in our industry where it's failed. It's just we've got to up level our professionalism and really, be looking out for us too. I mean, this is where I was saying before, that there's an outcome that might be that I might decide not to do this. So to work with you. So you've got to impress me just as much as I'm here to impress you. This isn't one-sided. And I think we go in that way and hurt ourselves.
So guys, let's do this. I'm going to expand this call 5 minutes. So anyone who has a hard stop, you can listen to the recording. We are going to go 7 more minutes. Dan, thank you so much for coming in. Also, I posted Jen's 5 questions in our Facebook group. In comments, what are other questions? I'm going to post a link to Jeremy's 5 questions. Dan, if you don't mind writing down your 5 questions in comments in that thread later on after your next meeting. And really appreciate you coming in and adding so much value, brother.
Oh, you guys are incredible. Great job, Jen. And keep bringing the value, Dave. Awesome.
All right, guys. So go to this Facebook group after this call, put in your questions. Let's just have a list of what are the best questions to ask realtors at meetings. And remember, you can ask the same question twice. Just don't be tone deaf about it. When you ask the question before, hey, 4 months ago, I asked you this and you said this, where are you at? So, I mean, when you really look at the great questions to ask realtors to be on point, to be a servant leader, to build value, it really is like a dozen questions asked in the right context, at the right time, listened to, and acted upon. Anyways, Jen, what are we looking at here with business builders?
Yeah, so I was going to say I don't have time to go into this bonus piece. So if someone has a question, they can get a hold of me personally, and I'll be happy to go into it. All right, so one of the things that I do, and not with everybody, but this is packaging up something to give to them, and this is an accumulation of my own experience, an accumulation of Coach White. Right? There's some other things in here as well. But one of the things that I provide to my realtors is this is what I am willing to do to help you grow your business. What I've worked on, what my team will help contribute to helping you grow your business. And literally, this is an a la carte. You can see the little check boxes. What we do is we go through, after asking a lot of questions, beyond just the 5 questions, that's just an expansion possibility. And again, I have that meeting every week with my realtor. Who do you want to be connected with this week? What is your challenge this week? What are your goals this week? Because I want to keep that relationship tight. I want to keep it going regularly. If it's not weekly, do it every other week, but don't do it once a year or ever again. I mean, that's bad. But once we've identified where their needs are, what they need help with, this is something I offer to them and say, okay, look, I've got a complete package that will propel your business. These are the things I offer for our partnership, for your buyers, for sellers. Okay, and you can expand on this, you can retract on it, whatever's easier for you who's listening. But for the realtor, they go through and they check what is important, or I use this and check what is important. And then from there, so let me go through a few of them. The preferred partner program is what you just saw, the sparking, the expose, exchange, so that puts them in my network. So I refer business to them and connections to them. Genius Network, we all know what that is just bringing them in for a quarterly get together. And I'm not going to go through all of them. Getting Real with Realtors. Oh gosh, what's his name? So Dan just mentioned about videos, right? And I do a lot of videos too. But I created this thing called Getting Real with Realtors. Called Getting Real with Realtors with Jen DuPlessis. You can see it on my Facebook page. I interview realtors. I create some music behind it. It's a 2-minute promo, and I pitch it out into the big bad world. I interview them and ask them what makes them so special. And so do something like that. And this gives them exposure as well. So I start with the partnerships because I want it clear that this is not you take from me or me take from you. This is a partnership. Together, we're going to advance our partnership. So we have home buyer clubs, we do housewarming parties, and I love the seller piece because when a realtor says to me that they're just a listing agent and they don't need me, I have more things that they can do with me as a listing agent than I do with them as a buying agent. Okay, we can do list reports, help pick your neighbor, a forever home campaign, pre-listing appointments, a sneak peek VIP. They're the only people that I will sit in an open house with or a broker open with. But all of these things, so think, what is the suite of things that you could, of tactics and strategies that you could offer to a realtor to help move their business forward that you're doing with them, not giving to them to do. They're not giving to you, but that you could do with them. And one of the people that I have in this program, she came back and said she checked all of them. And I said, well, that's nice, but we can't do all of them at once. I don't have the capacity on my team. So what we did is we started with, hey, let me go networking with you. Let me help you go networking, and let's look at what your networking looks like. Let's sit down and carve out your business plan. We did a Getting Real interview, and made her part of my partnership program so that I could learn who she wants to be connected with, what her challenges are, so that I could really be her coach. I mean, that's really what we're trying to do, is let's coach these people to be successful. The odds of them leaving the industry are higher than us, right? So there, and again, you've got to decide, are you going to do this for every Tom, Dick, and Harry, or are you going to isolate this for a handful of people? I mean, you can't possibly have more than a certain amount of people. I have 10 of these, 10. I can't help more than 10 people like this. Some of them are my apostles, and some of them are not. Some of my apostles are really good on the buying side, but they want to learn more about listing. And so I'm in here to help them with that side of it so that I can get more business from that as well. So does that make sense?
Makes total sense. So
yeah. So what ends up happening is that you end up engaging and having these bird dogs out there for you, and your help, and these people are bird dogging for you to connect you with realtors. Who do you want to be connected with? A realtor who specializes with builders because I want builders, a realtor who's upset with their lender, a realtor who's plateaued. Be specific, not just realtors, right? And then you have these people out there bird dogging for you that allow you to focus your time and energy on your 12 apostles and the 10 people that are in your business booster program. Now you're not out having to be a cat on a marble floor. Someone else is doing that for you. Make sense? So I'm done for now. I'd be happy to answer GABA questions. I mean, this is a 2-hour presentation, not the pieces you've seen, but the whole thing is a 2-hour presentation. I talk about a lot of different things, but I just wanted to shed a light on this. Is that go back? Here's your action plan. Go back to the people you met in the last 6 months. Every appointment. Get another appointment and change the way you do your meeting. Don't try to find new people. Go back to the people that you just met with in the last 6 months and say, hey, you know what? I meant to give you a call back. I'd love to meet with you again. And now change the tune on the way you do it, and do it today. Don't wait. Make phone calls today and meet them in the next couple of weeks and get yourself silly busy.
All right, guys. So Jen, you knocked it out of the park. So one, make sure you go to our Facebook group after this. Participate, comment, share your top questions. I also posted a question: what visual value do you provide for realtors? And I'm interested to hear what answers we come up with. I love the way you have packaged your value, and you have put it in a way that helps you walk a client through it so they kind of understand all the different value points. Before we wrap this up, Jen, if anyone wants to connect with you, reach out to you. I know you also have a program that you're promoting right now, your lifetime membership program. If you could just quickly tell people how to connect and anything about your program.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're interested in the lifetime membership, just go to kineticsparkconsulting.com and click in the membership section there. If you'd like to reach me personally, you can email me at jend@apexhomeloans.com, and you can text me, or you can call me, or you can Facebook me. But my phone number is 703-864-4597. Call me, text me. I'd love to hear from you. You know, I'm at that point in my career now where I'm giving back to my industry. I'd love to see all of you take your tenure. Don't wait 35 years to learn what I've learned. Compress it. Let me help you compress it for your success.
Love it. So everybody who asked questions, sorry, we had Dan Keller on the call, and he got to ask all the questions and add some extra value. Please let us know what you thought of today's call. Did we surpass your expectations with value? If you were a guest on this call and you would like to schedule a demo, click the last option. Say, I'd like to get a demo of Mortgage Coach. Highly recommend that you connect with Jen. Go to her website, buy her book. She's a tremendous leader in our space. Jen, super grateful for all the value you bring to Mortgage Coach. And thank you for today. This call is a wrap. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.